about that. And the thought, in terms of what, this question, the thought itself was really simple. What if the person that I say I want wouldn't actually choose the current version of me? What if the person that I say I want wouldn't actually choose the current version of me? And at first, my instinct was to reject it. I thought, of course they would. Like Black Rose said, right? She said, Black Rose, you said they always choose you. You just don't. You the one that's not choosing, right? That don't want to choose. And that's what I thought, right? I said, of course they would. And we're not talking about being chosen by anybody. There's a reason. You gotta stop long enough, Black Rose, to think about, right, why won't you choose them? Because there's something and some reasons why you won't choose them. So we talking about the person that you really want, not being chosen. Not you like your peace, right? But the right person, if you don't want to be single your whole life, the right person is going to be peace for you. So think about that, right? So now we got to ask ourselves, yeah, we you if you look good, if you fine, yeah, a lot of guys going to want to choose you. But you got to ask yourself, why isn't the person that brings you peace? Why isn't the person that you wouldn't choose you? So that's what I had to. That's the question. I thought initially, yeah, of course they'll want to choose me. Of course they'll want to choose me. And they would see my strengths, they would see my wins, they would see the things that I've worked hard for, they'll see my education, they'll see the books that I've written, all of that. And yes, I know my value. I know the work that I've done to improve myself, to become someone capable of love, discipline, and purpose. But the more I sat with that question, the more I realized it was that question wasn't meant to criticize me. It was meant to examine me, because we all know how easy it is to dream about the person that we say we want, right? We can picture them in incredible detail. They bring me peace. He does this, and she looks like this. Like we all can think, we can describe the person that we truly want, the person that brings us that peace, right? The emotional maturity, the wisdom, the way they carry themselves, the depth of their faith, the integrity they display in the smallest actions. We admire the qualities that they embody. We imagine the life, a life with them, and it feels right, and it feels safe, and it feels like home, right? And you said, but what if you're not looking? That's cool. That's fine. And if you're not looking, then this might not be for you, right? But if you don't want to be single your whole life, and you want someone that brings you peace, that complements your life, that adds value to you, then this is for you. Because here's the thing, right? Imagining the partner that we want is different from preparing to be the partner they would admire. Think about that for a moment. If the person that you're dreaming about walked into your life today and observed you, the way you navigate pressure, the way you manage your emotions, the way you pursue your goals, the way you carry yourself, what would they actually see? Would they see someone aligned with the qualities they embody? Or would they see someone hoping the right person will somehow fill the gaps in their own growth? We spent so much time, so much energy searching for the right person. We analyze attraction, compatibility, communication styles, shared interests, and spiritual alignment. We analyze all of that. Do they bring me peace? Right? That's what you said, right? Do they bring me peace? And we create detailed mental pictures of what we want in a partner, but rarely do we stop long enough to ask ourselves a more critical question. Am I the kind of person someone someone like that would choose, right? And you said, but before you look for all that, you have to be fixed within. That's what we're talking about tonight. So that's what we're talking about. So I want you to think about the healthy people you know. They tend to attract other healthy people. Purpose driven people are drawn to others with direction and vision. Disciplined people tend to connect with discipline. The energy you emit, the habits you practice, and the mindset you cultivate sends signals to those around you, even before words are spoken, right? You said, let's pose this question. Do you like yourself? Do you like yourself? That's a great question, right? So now, don't misunderstand me, right? This isn't about being perfect. None of us are finished products. Life is growth, but there is a difference between actively becoming someone better and hoping someone else will compensate for the areas we refuse to address, right? That was the liberating part of this realization for me. It shifted the focus away from the endless search for someone who fits and placed it squarely on the one area that I actually have influence over, myself. The only person that we have influence over is us, that person in the mirror. If the person that I hope to meet values purpose, I must cultivate purpose in my own life. If they prioritize emotional maturity, I must take ownership of my own emotional growth. If they are spiritually grounded, I must deepen my connection with God and strengthen my character in the quiet, unobserved places in life. I appreciate that, Mocha. Now, this question doesn't discourage, right? It challenges. It doesn't shame. It empowers. Because the truth is, preparation transforms you long before the right person enters your life. And when you are prepared, when you've become the version of yourself that a truly aligned partner would admire, and I'm gonna add, if you like yourself, like Black Rose said, the relationship doesn't just happen; it thrives. And it's a pro now that's a profound shift from chasing to becoming, from hoping someone else will complete you to recognizing that your growth is what completes you. And that's where real lasting attraction begins. Now let's take a step back for a second, right? And look at the world around us. Our culture talks about relationships like a shopping list, the qualities we want. He got to be 6 foot. He got to make six figures. The check boxes to tick. She got to look like an Instagram model. The deal breakers. We talk about the deal breakers and the must-haves. We want what we want becomes the center of the conversation, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Clarity about your desires is important, but clarity about your own development, that's the part that's often missing. Hey, what's up? Whoopty motherfucker MF and do what you how you doing tonight? So I want to talk about the balance, right? Where we know we know people who can list the perfect partner's attributes in excruciating detail, right? They can describe what they admire in character, lifestyle, emotional depth, even spiritual alignment. But if you look closer, sometimes a different picture emerges. Their daily habits, routines, emotional responses, and spiritual practices don't fully reflect the qualities they claim to have. So, now some of you might say that you want discipline, but you live in comfort and procrastination. Some people might crave emotional stability, yet you avoid accountability and never learn to navigate conflict constructively. Some of you may value faith. You might say you want a man of God, right? Yet your spiritual life is sporadic, reactive, or inconsistent. You want them to read the Bible, but you don't read the Bible. You want them to be consistent in their faith, but you're not consistent in your faith. Most of the time, this isn't malicious. It's not hypocrisy. It's a simple disconnect between what we desire and how we live, and it has consequences. Attraction is rarely just chemistry, it's alignment. The patterns we embody, the energy we carry, and the habits we practice send signals to potential partners. They see what we value often before we speak it out loud. And when people invest in personal growth, right? Discipline, emotional awareness, purpose, spiritual development, all of those naturally attract others who share those traits. Those aren't, there's an unspoken recognition, a kind of resonance that occurs when two people meet who are both committed to their own personal growth. They see effort, they see resilience, and they see the integrity in one another. But when someone wants these qualities without developing them personally, the relationship dynamic becomes unbalanced. And I'm going to describe this, right? So I see women online all the time and they say, I want a man of God. But when I go to their profile and I see ratchetness and I see all of this stuff, that those aren't things that's going to attract me, right? They look good, they look great, but they don't embody in lifestyle the thing that they say they want. So I'll never be attracted to that. So there's a disconnect between what they say they want and who they are in lifestyle and action. So you will never attract a man who has his stuff together if you don't got your stuff together to yourself, and vice versa. You said they don't walk it, they just talk it. You're right. So so here's the thing. Healthy relationships thrive when both partners take responsibility for themselves. I'm going to say that again in case you didn't hear me. Healthy relationships thrive when both partners take responsibility for themselves. So when I meet somebody, if all they talk about is what every other person did wrong and how every other person treated them bad, and they don't take any responsibility for themselves, and I'm not saying that those things didn't happen, but if they don't take no responsibility for themselves, then that's a big red flag. That's a couple of red flags to me. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about commitment to growth. When enough people embrace this mindset, the conversation about relationships shifts from who completes me to who's walking the path intentionally and am I walking mine? I'm gonna say that again. It goes from who completes me or who brings peace to me. Hey, what's up, Kay? To who is walking their path intentionally and am I walking mine? This perspective right here that I'm talking about, right? We're talking about why your type or why the person you want would never choose you. This perspective opens a door to honesty, a level of self-reflection that most people avoid. It causes us to ask questions that causes us to examine our habits, right? Our emotional patterns, our spiritual practices, and our personal development, all in the context of the partnerships that we hope to create. So I'm gonna ask that question again. Why why do you think the person that you want would never choose you? Why can most of us say that, right? Because when you said drop, okay, I appreciate that. Um, so when we approach relationships, the way that I'm talking about, everything changes. We stop treating love as a hunt for someone to fix our life and start treating it as meeting between two people who bring their own strength, their own accountability, and their own growth into the relationship. So let's talk about this from a faith perspective, right? From a faith perspective, this conversation aligns perfectly with the principles of scripture. The time and time again, right? The Bible teaches that transformation begins inside before it becomes visible outside. You see, God doesn't just care about the relationships we have, He cares about the character we cultivate. I want to say that again. God couldn't care less about the relationships we have. What He cares most about is the character we cultivate. So if you can't handle what you say you want, why do you think God is going to give it to you? Why let's say you have a 5-year old. You going to get it, or are you going to give that 5-year old $1,000? $1,000 in cash. I'm waiting. I'll wait on that. Are you going to give that 5-year old $1,000 in cash? Hell nah. Right? So why do you think God is going to give you this person who got it together, who is healed, who is everything that you say you want, but you can't handle it? You a 5-year old in practice. So just like you would never give that 5-year old $1,000 in cash, God will never give you what you can't handle. Absolutely. So just like this, faith isn't about finding the right circumstances or encountering the right people. It's about becoming the kind of person whose life reflects God's character, integrity, humility, patience, and love. When we embrace spiritual formation like this, right, we are learning to walk in alignment with God's design. That alignment naturally impacts the relationships we attract. You see, when we look at Jesus' teachings, right, he repeatedly pointed forward, not outward. He encouraged reflection, heart examination, spiritual maturity, right? All of that requires personal work before relational work. I want to say that again for the person in the back. Reflection, heart examination, intentional growth over judgment or criticism of others, right? In, in other words, I'm gonna say this: spiritual maturity requires personal work long before relational work. And when we take this approach, we cultivate the qualities like kindness, self control, humility, and patience, qualities that are indispensable in any relationship. Growth and faith and character is not instant, it's a gradual process built through consistent reflection, prayer, and service. Now, we talked about last week, if y'all remember, if you were here, we talked about how our algorithms don't reward time. It doesn't reward progress. It's an instant gratification thing. It rewards engagement right now, not later. And so oftentimes we don't sit long enough to become the person who we are designed to be before trying to get the person who we say we want, right? It's in these small unseen moments. Say, what's up, Q? How you doing tonight? In these small moments, right? Where God it's in these moments where God shapes our capacity to love well. See, as we become the person that God intends us to be, right? The relationships we attract naturally mirror growth. Two people pursuing their spiritual journey together, being, bring patience. Two people who are in alignment bring grace. Two people in alignment bring accountability into the relationship, right? Black Rose said earlier, she loves her peace. Two people who are in alignment with each other bring peace for each other. They bring alignment to each other. They bring growth to and peace and satisfaction and all of those things to each other. The problem, right? The reason why you can say, I love my peace is because people who you've been with and who I've been with and who we've all been with have not been that. That's why there can be a distinction right now of us saying, "Oh, I love peace." Is because what we've had before hasn't been peace. And I want to say this gently. There is a common denominator in every relationship that we've ever had. There is a common denominator. So if you haven't had peace, if I haven't had peace, if I haven't had, all of those nice qualities that I would say that somebody can say that you said people irritate you. Period. There is one common denominator in every relationship and interaction that we've ever had in our lives. That person in the mirror. So if people, again, I say this for myself, I'm a natural introvert. I had to learn this the hard way, right? I used to be just like that. And there are parts of me that's still like that. People irritate me. But there's a common denominator, and that common denominator is the person in the mirror. The problem is I'm not always approachable. The problem is I don't always create that environment where people can feel I'm not giving off what I say I want, right? I'm getting what I'm putting down. See, I'm getting irritation because I look irritated. So I'm gonna leave it at that, right? Spiritual formation is a direct path to relational readiness. Spiritual formation is a direct path to spiritual or relational readiness. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And when we invest in that type of inner work, it radiates outward, shaping the connections that we form in powerful and lasting ways. So if we want peace, if we want the opposite of irritation, then we got to give that off. We got to put that down because that's what we're going to get back. Now let's bring this to you, not in judgment, but an honest reflection. I want you to imagine the person that you hope to meet. Let's say, right? There's a reason why somebody might say, I'm not looking. Let's say you ideally, in an ideal world, if everything was perfect, that you knew that you could have, that you did, let's say you didn't have all of these negative experiences, you didn't have all of these toxic relationships in your past. Let's say you didn't have any of that, you would want a person in your life. So let's talk about it from that perspective. Let's set down, let's put down all the toxicity for a second, right? So I want you to imagine a person that you hope to meet. I want you to visualize their habits. I want you to visualize their character. I want you to visualize their faith. I want you to visualize their discipline. Now pause for a second and ask yourself, if that person encountered me today, what would they see? If that person encountered me today, what would they see? Would they recognize a version of themselves in me? Would they see someone walking their own path of growth, developing emotional maturity, spiritual depth, and purpose? I see a lot of women say they don't like these lustful men, right? They don't want him to be a lustful man. Would he see if the if you if a man of discipline, if a man of character, if a man of emotional maturity, if a man of spiritual depth and purpose, walking in his purpose, going to get it, if he encountered you today, what would he see? What would he see? Or would they see you doing all of those things, or would they see someone waiting for the right person to arrive before taking responsibility for their own growth? This ain't about perfection. Hey, what's up, Rila? This ain't about perfection, right? This right here, this is about direction, because none of us arrive fully formed. I'm going to say that again. None of us are perfect. None of us arrive fully formed. See, there's a meaningful difference between actively growing and postponing growth in the hope that your circumstances will change. Because the truth is, the person you hope to meet is likely growing right now. They are learning, failing, adjusting, and cultivating habits that will prepare them for the right partnership. Meanwhile, the best thing that you can do is exactly the same: develop purpose, build emotional awareness, deepen your spiritual life, take responsibility for your growth, your habits, your character. Do these things before the right person enters your life, and you will not just attract them, you will recognize them, connect with them, and build with them. That's right. Accountability. That's what accountability looks like. Your growth is your responsibility. Your response is your responsibility. Your transformation is your preparation. And when you embrace that reality, you move from chasing somebody else to becoming the person worth choosing. When see, here's the thing. When we as a culture begin to approach relationships, everything shifts. Love stops being a search for someone to complete us and becomes a union of two responsible, intentional, and growing individuals. In this mindset, right? When we have this type of mindset, relationships are partnerships, not rescue missions. My pastor calls it missionary dating. In this dynamic, right? It's two people committed to becoming healthy, grounded, and purposeful, right? And that's where we bring strength into the connection. See, these types of people support each other's growth, they navigate challenges together, and they create a foundation capable of sustaining life's pressures, right? You said learn from past lessons, figure out what you should have done differently. That's right. So when people ask me that question, right, about my previous relationships, my previous thing, I I don't talk about what they did. That's easy, right? And an immature person can look at that and be like, oh, okay, well, you the problem. And that's cool. That just means they ain't my person. See, but so what I look for is I look for someone who takes responsibility, right? Who takes accountability, like you said, because real love, the reality is that real love doesn't appear instantly. Real love doesn't appear instantly. It grows from the quiet, consistent work of personal development and accountability. When we invest in ourselves, when we take responsibility, when we are accountable, something incredible happens, right? You said you can't change the past, but you can make the future better. You're right. Because when we do that, something great happens, right? We stop chasing the right person and we start becoming the right person. Let that sizzle in your spirit for a second. We stop chasing the right person and we start becoming the right person. We stop expecting somebody else to provide what we ain't got a lick of in ourselves. We began to show up fully. We began to show up ready, aligned, and capable of building something extraordinary alongside a partner who is equally prepared. We become that adult who can handle $1,000 as opposed to that 5-year old who can't. And in that space, love transforms. It motivates from fantasy to reality, from expectation to alignment, from desire to purpose. So the question isn't who is right for me. The question is, am I right for the person I hope to meet? And that question right there is where real growth begins. That's my time for Motivate Monday. I appreciate y'all. I want y'all to think about, right? I want y'all to, if y'all don't think about nothing else this week, I want you to think about, am I the person that I hope to meet? Am I the person who, do I have the qualities that I'm looking for in somebody else? So I appreciate that. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Motivate Monday. Find me on Instagram. Motivate. You can